What if the thing you think you need most after 70 is actually what's holding you back from peace, clarity, and even health? You've heard it 100 times. Stay social. Keep your friends close. That's the key to happiness as you age. But what if I told you that might not be true for everyone? In fact, a growing body of research suggests something radically different. That intentional solitude, deliberately choosing to limit or eliminate certain social ties, might be one of the most healing, empowering decisions a person can make later in life. Not because people don't matter, but because peace does. Let's start with something uncomfortable. Not all friendships are good for you. Some are rooted in the past and no longer serve your present. Some carry tension, guilt, or emotional manipulation. And the energy it takes to maintain these connections, texts, calls, visits, explanations, can quietly drain your mental bandwidth, leaving you tired, irritated, or even physically ill. A study published in the journals of gerontology found that seniors who trimmed their social networks down to just a few deeply supportive relationships, sometimes to none at all, reported less stress, better sleep, and a stronger sense of emotional control. Not isolation, not loneliness, just freedom. Why? Because after 70, your nervous system doesn't bounce back from stress like it used to. You have a finite amount of mental and physical energy each day. Spending that energy on people who criticize, drain, or confuse you, no matter how long you've known them, can quietly chip away at your well-being. Some seniors feel guilty for stepping back from friendships. They worry they'll seem rude, cold, or selfish. But here's the truth. It's not selfish to protect your peace. It's survival. And as you age, that becomes even more important. Consider this. A 2021 study by the University of Michigan found that emotionally tense social interactions can increase cortisol levels in seniors for up to 24 hours, interfering with digestion, immune response, and sleep. That's one single phone call or coffee chat with the wrong person doing damage that echoes throughout your entire system. So ask yourself, is every person in your life making you healthier, calmer, stronger? This video isn't about cutting off everyone. It's not about becoming a recluse. It's about challenging the one-size-fits-all narrative that says more friends always equal more happiness. That's simply not true, especially after 70. In this video, we'll explore 6 powerful, research-backed reasons why going solo might be the best thing you can do for your mind, body, and soul in this season of life. And one of these reasons will surprise you. Have you subscribed to this channel yet? I recommend you hit that button and turn on the bell so you never miss another health tip made just for you. If you enjoy this video, type 1 in the comments. If not, type 0 and tell me what kind of content you'd like to see instead. 6 reasons why you might be happier without friends after 70. Number 1. Freedom from emotional drain. At 70 and beyond, your emotional energy is more valuable than ever. You've spent a lifetime giving to your family, your work, your community, your friends. But here's the truth most people won't say out loud. Not all relationships deserve a permanent place in your life. Some of them drain you more than they feed you. Many seniors continue friendships out of obligation. We've known each other for decades. She was there for me once. He has no one else to talk to. But what's often ignored is how these relationships feel today. If every phone call leaves you anxious, if every visit ends in conflict, or if every conversation feels one-sided, then what you're really doing is sacrificing your peace for someone else's comfort. And that trade-off becomes dangerous after 70. Why? Because emotional stress doesn't just affect your mood. It triggers inflammation, weakens your immune system, disrupts sleep, and accelerates aging. A groundbreaking study from Carnegie Mellon University found that older adults exposed to frequent interpersonal stress had significantly higher levels of C-reactive protein, a key marker of inflammation that's linked to heart disease, diabetes, and cognitive decline. Now think about that. Something as subtle as a toxic conversation or the anticipation of one can quietly impact your health at a cellular level. Many seniors report feeling chronically tired, but not from age alone, from emotional labor. The energy it takes to smile, nod, and suppress your truth in order to keep someone else happy can slowly erode your vitality. You start avoiding phone calls, dreading social events, feeling resentful, and all of that can make life feel heavy, even if you can't quite explain why. Choosing to step back from emotionally draining relationships is not about anger. It's about clarity. It's about recognizing that your time is no longer unlimited, and every minute should be spent in ways that restore you, not reduce you. When you go solo, or selectively solo, you gain something precious: emotional sovereignty. You start to notice your own rhythms again. You become more present with yourself. You learn to say no without guilt, and yes, only when it brings peace. One woman in a recent senior wellness study said this: "After I stopped chasing old friends who no longer felt like friends, my headaches went away. I stopped feeling guilty for saying no. And for the first time in years, I felt like my home was mine again." That's not loneliness. That's freedom. So ask yourself, which relationships are nourishing you? And which ones are just familiar noise? Because the quiet truth is, peace often begins where people-pleasing ends. The second reason is less social pressure, more authenticity. After 70, something remarkable begins to happen. You start to care less about what people think. And if you lean into that shift, it can bring an incredible sense of relief. One of the greatest burdens many older adults carry is social performance. The unspoken pressure to show up, fit in, keep up appearances, and maintain relationships that may no longer reflect who they truly are. These pressures often linger from decades of social conditioning. Smiling through awkward conversations, saying yes when you meant no, or staying silent to avoid rocking the boat. But in your later years, you have an opportunity that younger generations rarely do: the freedom to be fully yourself without apology. Reducing or stepping away from social circles doesn't mean you've given up. It means you've finally stopped performing. It means you've stopped tolerating conversations that bore you, values that don't align with yours, or traditions that exhaust rather than enrich. Take birthdays, for example. Many seniors attend social gatherings out of duty, not desire. They sit at noisy restaurant tables, smiling through forced small talk, secretly wishing they were home with a good book and a cup of tea. And yet, they keep going, because that's what's expected. But what if you chose authenticity over obligation? When you go solo, intentionally, you no longer have to pretend. You don't have to explain why you'd rather stay in than go out, or why you're not interested in gossip, grandkids you've never met, or someone else's retirement plans. You begin to shape your life around your inner truth rather than external expectations. A study published in the Journal of Aging Studies found that seniors who minimized their social obligations and embraced solitude reported significantly higher levels of life satisfaction, particularly when their solitude was chosen, not imposed. They described feeling more aligned with their values, more creative, and more comfortable in their own skin. And here's something worth noting. When you drop the need to be liked, something magical happens. The right people, the ones who truly respect and understand you, remain. And often, that number is very small. But that's okay. Because after 70, it's not about quantity, it's about quality. And sometimes that means choosing no company over the wrong company. Think of it like decluttering your emotional house. Every time you release a relationship built on pressure or pretense, you make room for clarity, rest, and peace. You stop editing yourself. You start trusting your instincts. You live closer to your values. And in that space, you rediscover something many people lose along the way: yourself. So if you've ever felt guilty for turning down a dinner invite or skipping a family gathering because it drains you, remember this: authenticity isn't rudeness, it's self-respect. And sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is not go. The third reason why you might be happier without friends after 70 is mental clarity through solitude. After 70, your mind carries decades of memories, decisions, and emotional weight. It's not that you're incapable of processing things, it's that the mental clutter builds up. And what many seniors don't realize is how often that clutter is stirred up by constant social interaction. You've likely experienced it. After a day filled with visits, calls, or even group activities, you feel drained. Not just physically, but mentally foggy. That's not just age, it's overstimulation. In today's world, even older adults are expected to stay plugged in, with family group chats, endless social invites, or volunteering obligations. But few ask, what's the mental cost of staying this socially active? Psychologists call it cognitive overload. As we age, the brain processes information more slowly. That doesn't mean you're losing intelligence. It means your mind needs more space to think clearly. And when you're surrounded by conversations, noise, and others' emotions, your brain never gets that rest. Intentional solitude can be the answer. A 2022 study published in Frontiers in Aging Neuroscience found that seniors who spent regular, quiet time alone, without distractions or obligations, scored higher on tests of memory recall, emotional regulation, and even creativity. Solitude, it turns out, doesn't just recharge your body, it restores your mind. That's because in solitude, your thoughts can breathe. You have time to reflect, not react. You notice patterns. You remember what matters. You reconnect with your own voice without the interference of others' opinions. And you begin to see the world and yourself with sharper, kinder eyes. There's a reason why monks, writers, and philosophers throughout history have praised solitude as essential to wisdom. It's in the quiet that insight emerges, and after 70, insight is more important than ever. You might notice you become better at making decisions. You're less impulsive. You spot red flags sooner. You resist guilt trips and emotional traps. That's the power of mental clarity, something that can't grow in a crowd. And here's a subtle but powerful truth. When you stop filling your calendar, your mind starts to open. You begin asking better questions. What do I actually want to do with today? How do I feel when I'm alone? What part of me have I been neglecting just to keep others happy? In solitude, those answers find you. Some people fear that cutting back on socializing will lead to boredom or sadness. But what if it leads to clarity instead? What if the quiet isn't empty, but full of everything you've been too distracted to notice? When you choose moments of solitude, whether it's a walk, a quiet breakfast, or just an afternoon without company, you're not isolating, you're listening. And that listening can become the most nourishing practice of your later years. Because sometimes the clearest voice you need to hear is your own. Number 4, healthier routines without disruption. One of the most overlooked benefits of going solo after 70 is how it protects something vital: your daily rhythm. At this stage of life, your body thrives on predictability. regular meal times, consistent sleep, gentle daily movement. These habits may sound simple, but they form the foundation of your health, energy, and emotional stability. And yet, they are often the first things sacrificed when others enter the picture. How many times have you skipped your morning walk because someone called and wanted to chat? Or delayed your dinner because a friend dropped by unannounced? Or stayed up too late after a family gathering, only to wake up groggy and achy? It might seem harmless in the moment, but for older adults, even small disruptions can cascade into bigger problems. Sleep disturbances, blood sugar fluctuations, digestive discomfort, or missed medications. And when these interruptions happen regularly, your body begins to lose its balance. Solitude gives you the power to reclaim control over your routine. When you're not constantly adjusting your schedule to accommodate others, you're free to move at your own pace. You eat when your body is hungry, not when someone else is ready. You rest when you're tired. You walk when it feels good, not when it's convenient for a group. A study from the American Journal of Lifestyle Medicine found that seniors with consistent daily routines, especially those built around their natural rhythms, had better cardiovascular health, lower rates of depression, and improved mobility compared to those with irregular social schedules. Here's why. Your body is deeply influenced by what scientists call the circadian rhythm. This internal clock regulates everything from hormone release to digestion to cognitive function, and it doesn't respond well to constant changes every time your schedule shifts. Because of a friend's lunch invite, a late-night call, or a disrupted nap, your system has to recalibrate. But when you're solo, or when you set firm boundaries, you gain the consistency your body craves. You begin to notice how much better you sleep when dinner is on time, how much clearer your mind is when mornings are quiet, how much more energized you feel when your walk isn't skipped or shortened to meet someone else's needs. And over time, this routine becomes a rhythm, a kind of music your body and brain begin to dance with. You don't have to cut everyone out to protect your routine, but you do need to be honest about how much you're adjusting for others and whether it's costing you your health. Because at 70 and beyond, your body is speaking clearly. It doesn't need chaos. It needs rhythm. It doesn't need obligations. It needs rest. Solitude gives you the space to live in tune with yourself, and that kind of harmony is worth more than any social engagement. The fifth reason is protection against toxic relationships. There's a painful truth most seniors eventually face. Some relationships turn toxic, and age doesn't make them easier to manage. In fact, as you grow older, your emotional resilience to tolerate difficult people often declines, not because you're weaker, but because your nervous system becomes more sensitive to stress. The things you once brushed off, a sharp comment, passive-aggressive behavior, subtle manipulation, can now trigger lasting emotional and even physical discomfort. You may not want to admit it, but some of the people you've known the longest, neighbors, family members, even lifelong friends, are quietly draining your energy, undermining your peace, or controlling your choices. And after 70, you can no longer afford that kind of slow poison. Going solo, or at least going selectively, allows you to set a protective boundary between yourself and toxic relationships. Studies from the University of Minnesota's Center for Aging show that emotional exposure to toxic social interactions significantly increases cortisol levels in seniors, and not just in the moment. This hormonal stress response can last up to 48 hours, weakening the immune system, increasing blood pressure, and disrupting sleep. Think about that. One toxic conversation can set off a chain reaction that affects your body for days. And here's the tricky part. Toxic relationships don't always look dramatic. Sometimes they're subtle. It's the friend who constantly plays the victim and leaves you feeling guilty. It's the adult child who only calls when they need money. It's the social acquaintance who gossips, judges, or belittles you in public. At a younger age, you might tolerate it for the sake of appearances, family, or tradition. But now, you have every right to ask a new question. What is this relationship doing to my spirit? Many seniors who choose to step back from these dynamics describe feeling lighter. They no longer dread phone calls. They don't feel pulled into drama. Their homes feel like safe spaces again, not extensions of other people's emotional chaos. And most importantly, they regain a sense of self-worth. Because toxic people often rewrite your reality. They make you question your memory, your kindness, your sanity. But in solitude, or with very selective company, you begin to see clearly again. You remember who you are, what you value, what you deserve. You may be surprised how much better your body feels once those draining relationships are gone. Fewer headaches, less fatigue, more restful sleep. These aren't coincidences. They're your body's way of saying thank you for protecting it. Letting go of toxic people doesn't mean you're bitter. It means you're wise. You've learned that not every connection is worth preserving, especially when the cost is your peace. You didn't come this far in life just to carry other people's baggage. You came this far to live freely, fully, and on your own terms. And sometimes that means closing the door on relationships that have long since expired. The sixth reason is brain health and the overstimulation trap. We often think of overstimulation as a problem for children or teenagers, but the truth is, your brain after 70 becomes more vulnerable to sensory and emotional overload, not less. As we age, the brain's ability to filter out noise, distraction, and emotional stress becomes weaker. And this isn't just about sound or bright lights. It's about social stimulation, constant talking, emotional exchanges, adapting to others' needs, and being pulled into the dynamics of group behavior. The more people you interact with, the more your brain has to juggle, remembering names, tracking emotions, managing responses, navigating politeness. It's a mental marathon, and for many seniors, especially those who are introverted or highly sensitive, this kind of stimulation quietly erodes mental sharpness. You may have felt it yourself. After long social events or back-to-back conversations, your thoughts feel scrambled. You struggle to find words. Your memory falters. You just want to be alone, but can't explain why. This isn't rudeness, it's your brain crying out for rest. Neurologists now understand this phenomenon as cognitive fatigue. A study published in Neurobiology of Aging found that older adults exposed to high levels of social and emotional interaction over time showed increased markers of neural stress, specifically in the hippocampus, the area of the brain responsible for memory and focus. Worse still, prolonged overstimulation without adequate recovery can accelerate cognitive decline. But here's the good news: solitude is restorative. When you limit your social input, your brain gets the space it needs to recover and reorganize. You think more clearly, you process information more deeply, you feel mentally lighter and more in control. It's like closing too many browser tabs. Your mental system finally has breathing room. And it's not just about rest. Solitude allows your brain to strengthen. Just as muscles grow stronger with recovery after exertion, your cognitive pathways improve when given space to reset. In solitude, you can daydream, problem solve, reflect, all things that sharpen mental flexibility and emotional insight. This is especially important for seniors managing conditions like early cognitive decline, memory loss, or anxiety. Reducing overstimulation can improve focus, stabilize mood, and even support neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to adapt and reorganize itself. Let's be clear, this doesn't mean you should avoid all social interaction. Human connection is important, but so is balance. You don't have to attend every lunch. You don't need to reply to every message. You're allowed to say no. And more importantly, you're allowed to build a life that puts your mental clarity first. Here's what we've uncovered together. Solitude after 70 is not loneliness, it's clarity. It's freedom from emotional drain. It's the power to live authentically without the weight of social pressure. It's the ability to protect your body's rhythms, guard your peace from toxic relationships, and shield your brain from overstimulation. And none of that is selfish. It's survival, it's self-respect, it's wisdom. You've spent a lifetime serving others, raising families, working jobs, nurturing friendships, navigating obligations. But this next chapter? It's for you. And if that chapter involves less talking and more thinking, fewer gatherings and more stillness, that's not a decline. That's an elevation. In fact, some of the most fulfilled seniors are the ones who have simplified their social lives, not expanded them. They've learned that the world may not understand their choices, but that doesn't matter. What matters is how they feel when they wake up. Calm, grounded, undistracted. If this video spoke to you, I encourage you to do 3 things. Like this video so it reaches others who need this message. Subscribe and turn on the bell icon. This channel is your space for truth, health, and peace after 60. Comment below. If you're embracing solitude or thinking about it, type 1 and tell us why. If you're still unsure or feel pressured to stay social, type 0 and let's start a real conversation.